Hi and welcome to my series on doing what you love. So I am a huge advocate of doing what you love. I will scream it from the rooftops. I fully believe every single person should be doing what they love. They should be giving themselves permission to do that. And if you do what you love, you live a far more enriched life. And I believe that if you're doing something that is in your zone of genius, which you really, really enjoy, you're far more likely to experience a lot more abundance in your life as well, financially and just through your heart feeling really, really fulfilled. So I thought I would kick off this series by simply talking a little bit about my own journey and my own experience in this, because I did what I hated for an awful long time and it got me into quite a bit of a tangle, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the kind of things that I have experienced. And you might see yourself in my old situation. And I just think it will be really useful for you to see how doing what I hated was not the right choice for me. Because I think a lot of us choose to stick with doing something that we hate because we think that is better. And this is where people get stuck, because they just stick in a place where they just accept and they settle for doing what they hate. And I just don't think it's necessary. So the first thing I would say about doing what you love is that it is an incredible journey. Doing what you love is not picking something and going directly to it, in my experience. It is more about getting on the path to discovering what your purpose is, rather than picking it to begin with and hustling and working really, really hard to make it happen. And so for me, doing what you love is as much about the incredible journey that you go on as it is the outcome. Because I believe that life is always teaching us. All of the time, we are learning and we are being taught, and our experiences are doing that. And so there is so much value in simply experiencing the journey of trying to do what you love as much as it is in doing what you love. There's great value in that too. Obviously, it feels wonderful, but the journey I have been on to get to do what I love has had just as much value. So let's talk about the challenges. When I decided to do what I loved, it wasn't easy. It was the complete opposite. What was easy was going to a job that I absolutely hated and picking up a paycheck every month. From the point of view of getting paid, it obviously wasn't easy to feel absolutely stressed, but we'll get more onto that in a moment. But when it came to doing what I loved, what are the kind of things that you might be thinking, I don't want to experience that? I experienced all of these things, and yet I am still so grateful that I did. I experienced bumps in the road, blockades, days where I just did not know what I was doing. And days where I had, weeks, months, years even, financial insecurity, not knowing how much I was going to make that month, not making enough money that month. I've experienced it all. I've experienced the days where you feel shame that you are wasting people's time, you're wasting people's money, you're getting things wrong, you don't believe anymore that your dream can happen, and that you just perhaps have got it all wrong and you've got on the wrong path in the first place. These are all the kind of fears that we tend to have that put us off doing what we love. If any of those things happen, I won't survive. I won't be able to stand it. It'll feel too awful. But what I experienced from doing what I hated was that the alternative was definitely worse. The alternative for me was clock watching all day, getting to work, looking at the clock and thinking, I cannot believe I'm going to be here for 8 hours doing something that I'm not enjoying. I experienced crying every Sunday night for a while, right till the run up of going, I'm done with this. I'm going to find another way. I would cry in the bath on a Sunday night out of desperation, thinking, I cannot face tomorrow. I can't face not knowing how to do the job that I'm supposed to do, not finding it as easy as other people are finding it. Mostly I was crying in the bath every Sunday night because I just felt like it just felt so terrible to not be in control of how I was going to spend the next day and the next day and the next day and then Thursday and then Friday. The thought that I'm going to have no say in that and I'm going to be so emotionally and physically drained from the experience of trying to be good at something that I'm not interested in, will mean that come the evening, all I'm going to want to do is indulge in something that will make me feel better. For me, it was food, and start worrying about the next day. And so I had that. I also had the experience of really quite devastating physical responses to the stress that I felt from trying to be a square peg fitting myself into a round hole. I had problems with my thyroid, quite common with women who are, undergoing a lot of stress, but that was undiagnosed, and it led to an all-out autoimmune disease that was very, very far progressed by the time it got diagnosed. I also had incredible chronic pain, and that led to me being unable to walk pretty much for 9 months. I couldn't get my children to school. I literally couldn't do anything other than lie flat all day, and having a really devastating prognosis from the doctors, just saying it won't get any better. I don't understand why you keep coming in wanting help. You've just got to accept this. Go on the heavy painkillers and accept this is your life now. Thank goodness I refused to do that, and I just decided I would try everything until I found an answer, and very quickly I did find answers. What else did I experience? Oh my goodness. I experienced just being in a constant fight or flight response at all times. It is exhausting feeling like you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger 24/7. None of these things were worth it. I happily, now I'm on the other side of it, would swap not knowing what I'm doing in my business, maybe wasting a bit of money. It's never wasting, it's always feedback and learning. I would happily swap all those things for the things that I was experiencing when I was doing what I hated. And what I've experienced is that in jumping and believing that I will grow the wings on the way down, and that I won't crash land, and it might be a really, really bumpy ride, but if I jump into the unknown, something will catch me and everything will be okay. I've only ever found that because I've done it time and time again with each venture within doing what I love. Every time I have had a soft landing. It may be a bumpy journey, but I've had a soft landing and it's been worth the jump. And so, in my opinion, when you choose suffering because it's familiar over the potential to do something that might make you happier, but has also the potential that there might be some suffering on the way. When you choose the familiar and you just accept it, you just go, I'm just going to settle and just accept that this is my life, doing something that I hate because it is far too scary to risk doing what I love because I might also suffer that way. Do you see how bonkers that is? Choosing, I'm definitely going to suffer. That feels better than potentially suffering or potentially thriving. I'm just going to stick with what I know. I'm going to definitely choose suffering. I just think it's bonkers, but we are conditioned by society to feel incredible shame around inconveniencing people, family, whatever, yourself, by taking a risk. And it may be being several bumps in the road until it starts to smooth out and seem like it was a good idea. Now, in my experience, every single bump in the road has been worth it. So we'll be moving on to the next stage of this video series next week. But for now, I want to leave you with an exercise, because if this is starting to seem interesting to you, then you might be asking yourself, how do I find out my purpose? How do I find out what it is I want to do? Because I want to do what I love. I don't want to be suffering anymore. Well, there are many stages to that, but the first one, the one thing I really wish somebody had told me when I spent 10 years trying to figure out how do you figure out how to do what you love, was this. I began to notice what made me feel excited and what I was curious about. And it was picking one of those things and going down its own mini journey of experiencing this thing I was curious about that set me on my entire pathway to doing what I love. So there's a little clue about the kind of things we're going to be exploring further in this video series. But to start with, you need to start noticing what excites you. You need to be an investigator of your own curiosity. You need to develop a muscle of self-awareness, because The only person that is going to get you to a happier place is you. You might be able to get a coach and get help, and that is fantastic. But the only person that's actually going to do the work is yourself. And you need to become an expert all about yourself. When I became an expert of Kia Canons, what lights me up, what definitely doesn't light me up, what my natural tendencies are, what I've always been interested in, what I'm curious to learn more about, then I began to be armed with the knowledge that was going to save me, essentially, because I needed saving when I was in such an awful physical and really mental situation. My well-being was completely compromised by forcing myself to do something that I hated every day, thinking this is safe. It's never safe. So I want you to set the intention that you are going to start trying to notice what lights you up. And whenever you think of something, I want you to write it down. That's it for this week. And let me know how you get on. You can always find me over on social media, or find me via email at hello@kiacanons.com. I would love to know how you're finding this, because it truly could be the beginning of finding the key to pure happiness.